Okay, our first task of this particular section is we're going to create a component so that our members can edit their profiles. So what we'll do, we'll open up our terminal window and let's just clear this particular screen, and we're going to cd into our source and the app and the members folder for this. And what we're going to do is say nggc, and we want member-edit, and we're going to skip -tests and press return. And this goes ahead and opens up our member edit component. Now we don't have a root for this at the moment, so we'll go to our app routing module. And what we'll do inside here is, obviously we're going to make this authenticated, so we'll stick it inside our protected routes. And I've just noticed we've got our can activate here as well. We don't need that there. Obviously it hasn't done us any harm, but it was unnecessary to have it there. And we'll just drop this one down, and what we'll do is we'll say member/edit. If you use members/edit, then you're going to cause a bit of confusion for the Angular router, because it's going to use the first part of the path, and as soon as it sees something after the /, then it's going to attempt to take you to the username, and we won't get to the edit in that case. If you were to use members, then you would need to use that path match full to actually activate this particular component. So we're going to I'm just going to use member/edit for this, as that feels like the appropriate route to use for this anyway. And then what we need to do is provide a link for this in our nav component HTML. So let's head over here, and what we'll do is inside our drop down menu, we're just going to add a router link for our edit profile. So we'll say router link, and we'll set this equal to /member/edit, and that should take us to the correct component. And then of course we need to go to our member edit component rather than our member detail component here. So we'll give this a go and make sure that we can access this component. So we'll head back to the browser. I'm logged in as Lisa. I'll click on edit profile, and we can see that member edit works. But what we need to make sure in this component is that we're actually loading up the currently logged in user's profile. And in order to do that, we'll go back to our VS Code and we'll open up the member edit component. And what we'll need to do in here is get hold of the current user from our account service, and we'll use that to get the username for that user so we can go and fetch that particular member. So what we'll do is we'll add two properties inside here. One will be the member, which is going to be of type member, and we'll also have our user, and that's going to be of type user. And we'll need to bring in both the account service and the member service in here. So we'll say private account service and make this the account service injection, and we'll have private member service, and we'll bring in the member service. And what we want to do is populate this user object with our current user from our account service. Now remember, the current user is an observable, and what we need to do is get the user out of that observable and use that for our user. We need to access this object inside our component, and we can't really work with an observable to do that, so we need to get it out of there. So what we'll do is we'll say list.account service, and we'll say current user, and we'll use the same tactic we used in our interceptor. We'll use the pipe, and then we're just going to say we want to take 1, and then we're going to subscribe, and then we're going to say our user, and then goes to this.user equals user. And now our user will have the current user from our account service. And then what we can do, below the ng on init, we'll say load member, and we'll say list.memberService.getMember, and we'll say list.user.username, and then we'll subscribe, and we'll say member goes to this.member equals member. And then when we initialize this component, we can say list.loadMember. And just to visually see that this is working, let's go to our member detailed or our member edits template. And what we'll do inside here is we'll just have an h1 tag. We'll add the ngIf member, and we'll say member username this time. And let's just go across to our component, and we can see our username for Lisa, but let's just click out, click around, go back, and make sure if we edit profile we see Lisa. If we log out and we log in as, let's say, Todd with his password, and we go to edit profile, then we see Todd's username inside there. That's what we're looking for at this stage. What we'll take a look at next is creating the template we're going to use for our member edit. Okay, what we're going to do now is give the user a form and a way to edit their profile. And what we'll do for this is we'll take the content of our member detail component, the HTML, and to keep things simple at this stage, what we're going to do is just Control-A, Control-C, our member detail component, and we're just going to paste it inside our member edit component, and we're going to make some changes to this. And just below the row, what we'll do, we'll add another div with a column of 4, and inside here we'll just have a h1 tag and say your profile. And below this div, we'll add a div with a column of 8. And inside here, we're going to give the user a notification that they've made some changes to their profile. So what we'll do is we'll add a div with a class of alert and alert-info. And we'll add a paragraph tag in here. And we'll add a strong tag. And we'll say information, colon. And then after the strong tag, we'll say you have made changes. Any unsaved changes will be lost. And then inside our column where we've got our card, we'll keep the information about the user, but inside the card footer, what we'll do is we'll take away the button group here, and we'll just have a single button. And we'll take away the like one here. And for this particular button, what we want it to do is take up the full width of the container. So we'll use a button-block to do that. And then we'll change message for save changes. And the tabs will keep some of this content, and underneath the h4 tag, instead of displaying a paragraph here, what we'll do is we'll have a text area. And we're going to be using template forms here, so what we'll do is we'll give this a name of introduction, and we don't need the ID or the columns, so we'll remove that and we'll set the rows to 6 in this case. And for the looking for, once again, we'll remove the paragraph, and I'll just copy this text area and paste it below, and we'll give this a name of looking for, and we'll keep the rows as 6. And what I'll do is I'll just copy this h4 and the text area, and we'll paste this below, and we'll change the header here for interests. And we'll give these h4 tags a class actually, as we want to move this down a little bit so it's not all bunched up against each other. So we'll give this margin top of 2 in the second one, and we'll just copy that and paste it inside the one for the interests as well. And what we'll do after the interests is we'll take a look at the location details. So we'll say h4 for this, and we'll just say location details. And then we'll add an inline form. So we'll say div form dash inline, and we'll have a label, and we'll say this label is for city, and we'll say city colon, and then we'll just add some inputs to make use of. So we'll say input, and we'll give this a name equal to city, and we'll give it a class equal to form dash control, and we'll say mx-2 to give it margin left and right, and we'll just copy this one and we'll paste it below, and we'll change this to country, and we'll give it a name of country as well. Okay, so we've got a basic form. In fact, we don't have a form because we haven't surrounded this with a form tag. So let's create a form, and we don't need the action, but inside the form what we'll do is we'll take everything from the h4 down to the closing div here and cut this and paste it inside the form. And what we also want here is the ng model. Now we get two-way binding with this. So our introduction is going to come from our member introduction. So let's just add the ng models. So I'm going to say a-ng model, and this is going to be our member.introduction. And I'm just going to copy this ng module or ng model for each of the different parts of this, and then just overwrite the names. So for the input, it's going to be this one and this one. And we want to change the looking for member and looking for. The interests will obviously be interests. And we need to change the name here because I didn't do that earlier. And then for our location details, we need the member.city and we need the member.country. And for the other tabs that we have inside here, we're going to remove two of these tabs anyway. We're just going to have two tabs for the member edits. And what we'll do for the second one is we'll just call it edit photos, and we'll just have a placeholder for the time being, and we'll just say photo edit will go here. And let's see how we're getting on. So if we go and take a look at our browser, and I'm going to refresh the page because obviously I've missed out some styling elements here. Each of our text areas needs a form control, and this is what happens without Bootstrap. Yeah. So let's go back and add the classes we need for our text areas, and we just need to add class equals form-control, and we just need to do that for each of the text areas. So I'll add this into each of the text areas, and now let's see how we're doing. And that's a bit more like it. It's not the most amazing looking form in the world, but it does function and it does do what we're going to look for it to do. So we've got our description looking for interests and our location details. I'm just going to add some more margin above that as well and give this a class and say mt-2. So at least we spread it out a little bit. And that's looking okay. Obviously we've got this information alert here that we want to only display if they do actually have made some changes, and we'll come on to that. But if we take a look at the edit photos, about Todd, yep, this is okay. And we'll just get the styling that we used inside the member detail as well and apply it here, because the styling was encapsulated inside there, so we don't see the styling inside this component. So we'll go to the member detail CSS, and we'll just copy these styles and we'll paste it into our member edit component CSS, and just paste it in there and just go back and check, and that's looking okay. So what we'll take a look at is how we can edit this form and how we can control what's happening with a form as well, in terms of how do we dynamically display this if they've made a change, and how do we deal with this Save Changes button so it's only available if they've made a change. So that's what we'll take a look at next.